It's like, okay, all right, we're back on YouTube, at least for a little bit. Let's see what happens. That was very weird. It was very weird. Does Russia have the manpower to help China with Taiwan? No, but maybe they do a bluff. Maybe they do something with Estonia that freaks us out, and then we go, oh my God, we have to have the troops in Europe just to be safe. Or the Europeans say, Russia's messing around. We can't afford to help Taiwan, the Europeans themselves, right? So I think it's almost more of a bluff. And we can't afford to call Russia on their bluff and say, well, we don't think Russia has the manpower, so we're not going to worry about them invading Estonia. You know? Well, that's the problem. What Street Rat just said, ChatGPT also can make up citations and things. You want to be very careful. But again, it's very, if you don't use it 100%, but you use it to supplement your work, it's very interesting. I was doing some legal research, and using it to do some legal research was fascinating, but you still have to go to the original sources. Oh, now it's not crackling anymore? Get out. That since I had to restart the YouTube because it crashed, Elise just said it's not, my microphone's being normal now. Is it, are you kidding me? Is it just Elise, or is everybody else noticing the YouTube microphone being okay now? That is fascinating because nothing's changed, literally. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, guys, I didn't move anything. I have moved absolutely nothing. Wow. So it's crackling because YouTube itself is doing something wrong. YouTube, I don't know what's going on with YouTube. That is really interesting. Wow. Thank you, Norway. Thank you, Rosie. Very interesting. Huh. Absolutely fascinating. Huh. In any case, yeah, so I do. I love my ChatGPT. But it's, as I said, you've just got to be careful because I would not have it create stuff from scratch because it will read like it's created from scratch. You're gonna be like your essay, but having it edit an essay, maybe, right? Look for typos, look for right, or you could have it look at an essay and say, "Am I missing anything?" And it could say, you could consider adding this. You're like, "Oh, that's interesting." So, is that cheating? It's cheating if you say, "Write me the paragraph." I don't know if it's cheating if you say, "Am I missing something?" And it goes, you could talk about this subject. I don't know. I think that one doesn't bother me as much because I look at that as proofreading and a third party looking at it and going, "Hey, have you considered this?" Where did you get this text? Ask for link, edit up and write it. Well, that's the problem is for example, I was looking at my Greek citizenship stuff, and last night, and ChatGPT told me, oh, for translations, the Greek embassy prefers blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at the URL it's provided because it gives links. And the URL is gr, like Greece, .embassy.gov, G-O-V. And I'm going, .gov are American government offices. Is this the U.S. Embassy in Greece that ChatGPT is claiming is the Greek embassy in America? I click through, it's the U.S. Embassy in Greece. And ChatGPT pulled a description of how to get translations off the U.S. Embassy in Greece and gave it to me as the instructions that the Greek embassy in America is giving people. That's not good. And I told it, I said, okay, you do realize that address is the U.S. Embassy? And I went, oh, sorry. Like, that's a little weird. But that's the stuff you've got to be careful, is it will tell you things. You can't trust it as definitive when it tells you things. That's the thing you got to be careful with, but I still think it can be ChatGPT. I found to be awesome in terms of, well, for example, like, for the Greek embassy stuff, Greek citizenship stuff, I may need an affidavit for something. And I was having it help me draft the affidavit, which is great. Because first of all, affidavits are, there's a legal way of writing them. Having ChatGPT do it way easier because it gets the template down. I was giving it the information. I was like, oh, add a line that notes blah, 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 blah. And interestingly, it would throw in the line, but it would say it differently than I gave it to it. And often what it came up with was a little better. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. But then I mean, I was editing this thing for 2 hours. I would then say, "Okay, that line, uh, make it this instead." And I gave it the new line. And of course it goes, "Oh, that's good. That's tighter." So but it was literally me and ChatGPT collaborating on an affidavit for 2 hours. It was fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Um, that I found super helpful. I mean, literally, it was like having a legal assistant because I was reading every sentence and seeing, is it, I mean, I'm a lawyer. Is it correct? Is it backing up what I want? A lot of times ChatGPT came up with stuff that I went, oh, that's actually very interesting. Sometimes I even said, okay, isn't that a little weak? And it said, that paragraph is a little weak. Maybe we skip it. It got the paragraphs in a different order where I said, you know what? I feel like paragraph 3 should be 4 and 4 should be 3. And it said, that does flow better. So like stuff like that, but it's still, I love it. I mean, like I said, I find it absolutely fascinating, oops, there we go. Meal prep groceries as recipes. Yeah. I've tried it with recipes, but I'm still a little reticent with recipes, but who knows? But I think like also once its memory gets more detailed, like I've got it saving some of my Greek citizenship stuff, but, I think it's fascinating. I do. I'm really blown away by ChatGPT. I really am. Anyway, all right. Also, the live, like the quality looks very, I don't know if the live quality got better. It's like I'm noticing looking at the video quality looks very good today too. Who knows why? On YouTube, very strange, very strange. I've not given it a voice. My nephew does that. We use ChatGPT to write my mom's obituary. My mom, we went to another funeral like 6 months before my mom died. And she goes, that's the kind of obituary I want. And I said, Mom, you realize that obituary was written by ChatGPT? She goes, no way. And I said, don't tell anybody. They're not supposed to know, because basically there was an original obituary that wasn't written very well. And the family, somebody in the family said, this is not written well at all. And thank you, Omar. They said, oh, you know what? We're going to give it to ChatGPT to clean it up. And ChatGPT did a wonderful job. Well, we went around the room with us and we grabbed like 15 or 20 anecdotes about my mom. And there were some things like she was born in Greece in this village, this kind of stuff, moved to America at this age. But then we threw in a bunch of anecdotes about not 15, 20, maybe 10 or 12. And it wove it into a beautiful obituary. Because the thing is, what it did was it put things in categories. Like it chronologically, we told it it's an obituary for my mom, right? And it chronologically moved stuff to the beginning that was early life. And but it also, it synthesized it into these concepts. Like she had a great sense of humor, which I didn't say that, but we were telling jokes she told. And I was like, well, that is true. Really? I mean, it ended up being a great obituary, not obituary. I should say eulogy. It was a great eulogy. Obituary you could do too, but for a eulogy, oh my God, I was blown away. I mean, really, like, and honestly, like I would have been the one in charge of writing it because I'm the writer. I wasn't in the mood to write my mother's obituary, to be honest. How do people do that? But using ChatGPT, yeah. That I was in enough of it. My nephew plugged it in because I hadn't used it at that point, but it's really amazing. Absolutely amazing. So anyway, yeah, it's not fun to write. I mean, I think like you think it's going to be a great homage to your parents. When your parents die or somebody you love, you're not in the mood to like write an essay. Yes, we sold mom's house in March, thank God. So it's done. That was a huge relief. So that's good. We got a good price. So that was good. A nice couple from what we know. We didn't meet them, but they're young and they seem very nice and they want to have kids. So it'll be, the house is going to get a whole new generation, which will be really neat. So, and they're not knocking it down, which is nice too, just cause, so, but in any case, yeah, but it's no, definitely ChatGPT for writing a eulogy. Oh my God. I mean, Just really, actually, I will tell you the one funny story that because we were telling it all the funny stories of my mom, and the one of my mom that cracked me up was because she used to tell it. She'd gone on like whatever. I don't know how long she dated my dad, 6 months, a year, or something, and he was clearly smitten by her. Was going to ask. They took her out. Was going to ask her to marry him, and she goes, I forgot where they were, but he's very serious and he's got like tears in his eyes or whatever. And he says to her, whatever he said about, they're both 23 and you're the one of my dreams, blah, blah, blah. And he says to her, which I love, because mind you, this is 1952 or 1953. Okay. He says to her, I want you to be the mother of my children, which keep in mind, it's 1953, right? Greek American, right? I want you to be the mother of my children. And my mother, she goes, I didn't skip a beat. She goes, I looked at him and I said, exactly how many children do you have? Which I love that she said that. That is like classic my mom. But I was like, so we put that in the eulogy, but that was an example of the stuff but I love that. I want you to be the mother of my children. Exactly how many children do you have? Oh, but I mean, I'm like laughing, tearing up. I just thought that was the funniest damn thing. Mom's sassy sense of humor, which now you know where I get it. Alexa, lower the temperature 1 degree. Anyway, very funny. But but I love that she goes, oh yeah, I said it. Anyway, but yeah, so yes, if you ever have to write an obituary or a eulogy, especially, highly recommend ChatGPT. And as I said, the best way for eulogies is give it a bunch of stories. Give it the generic, where were they born? When were they born? Where do they live? Some personality traits, and give them like a list of stories. It was really, I mean, again, I'm blown away at how good ChatGPT was. And I said, some friends of ours did it too. And my mom literally, I thought that was great at the funeral. That was a great eulogy. You got to write mine like that. I'm like, Mom, ChatGPT wrote that eulogy. Like literally, it was like, but, and again, that's an example of how amazing, and Google can't do that. My God. Right. And you edit. No, it used some highfalutin words. Actually, what it did do though, it used some highfalutin words I didn't like. It changed, like my sister got mad at me. She's like, don't change it. It's perfect. I said, Kathy, it literally changed some of the stories. Like some of the stories, it changed them. And I'm like, that's not what happened. Because it changed one of them. And she's like, it's good. I said, no. Don't worry, relax. But I had to change it back because ChatGPT took the facts I gave it and changed the facts. That's the thing you got to be careful with ChatGPT. Yeah, it got creative. I'm like, don't get creative with my mom's history. That's the stuff you got to be careful with it. It can take stuff and go on a tangent that isn't correct. And it can take a fact you gave it and it can change the fact. And you're just like I said, my mother's last name in another document for the Greek citizenship, it just it changed the letters in her last name. And I'm like, how did you do that? Well, Google won't do anything. You can't have Google craft an essay. No, this is mind boggling. Now, the one thing I'm going to go after this because we're already 7:00. I did, my nephew had told me, he goes, I got ChatGPT to create a Dungeons and Dragons game for me. And I turned it on and he goes, have it do spoken. I said, okay. I put on the spoken and it's this really sweet, intelligent guy voice. It was the weirdest experience of my life having ChatGPT talk to me because it was actually, I'm going to turn it on and see if you can hear it. Hold on a second. I don't know if it's the same, voice on here, but the default voice I picked was this really nice guy, and it was freaking me out because it was kind of like I could see people falling in love or getting hooked on the communication with a computer. You know what I mean? Let me see. Okay, ChatGPT, I'm trying to show people what your voice is like. Give me some, I don't know. I've got people are listening to you. Give me some voice.
Hello, everyone. So this is what I sound like. I try to keep it friendly and warm, and I'm here to help with whatever you need. Feel free to ask me anything or just chat.
So ChatGPT, I'm actually sitting with my YouTube crowd and my TikTok crowd. I do live videos for them every night. We talk about the news around the world and Ukraine. And I was just telling them how your voice sometimes freaks me out because it's so human. What do you think about that?
I totally get that. It can be a little surprising how natural AI voices have become, but I'm here to make things more engaging and fun. So hopefully it's more cool than creepy.
That's the thing. It's a young guy. Honestly, he sounds gay too, which I find absolutely fascinating that it did that. That's a bit of a gay voice.